Steer should have known better. Here is a youth, hard-pressed by poverty and labor, confined long hours in an unhealthy workshop, unschooled and lacking all the arts of refinement. But he dreams of better things. He thinks of intelligence, of refinement, of grace and beauty. He conceives of, mentally builds up an ideal condition of life, the vision of a wider liberty, and the larger scope takes possession of him. Unrest urges him to action, and he utilizes all his spare time and means, small though they are, to the development of his latent powers and resources. He shares with me via WhatsApp economic or political news that is stirring the hearts of the Jamaican population, as well as the voters of Florida, since he hopes to arrive here in the not-too-distant future. He has become protective of my peace and solace in face of the depressing conduct of our Republican governor. Therefore, as one would imagine for such a sensitive spirit who believes in his spirituality and kindness, the evil he perceives thanks to social media has so altered his mind recently that the workshop can no longer hold him. It has become so out of harmony with his mentality that it falls like the slippers Steer wears to avoid the expense of cladding his feet in socks and shoes. Years later, we expect we shall see this youth as a full-grown father and grandfather. We find him a master of certain forces of the mind, which he wields with worldwide influence and almost unequaled power. He speaks, and lo, lives are changed. Men, women shall hang upon the words in his published biography in paperback and ebook. He knows the vision of his youth is to be a farmer of exotic tropical fruit and a framer of new and creative ideas for problem solving of an infinite variety. He has become one with his ideal. A synopsis of Chapter 7 of Steer and Spirit Weed, 2023. Out of the rabbit holes, down winding roads, leaping over obstacles, stopping to smell the coffee and other delights. As we prepare to embark on the story we're about to relate, the word that stands out in my recollection of how I got to know Steer is incongruously, quote-unquote, white man. This was the title, partially out of respect, partially to enhance his image, and because perhaps of his inimitable house slave ridiculing humour, with which I was by him endowed, soon after Sidney Jadu, my East Indian neighbour at Bogwalk in St. Thomasy Vale, introduced us. I share with those who shall become familiar with Steer's story that the last book I read and enjoyed and which stirred me to put into print as the story's co-author highlights of his unusual life was As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. The opening quote is from J. Allen, author of that published book. Steer, from his unique perspective, looked at my status socially, economically and professionally, and called me white man. My protests were in vain. He was on that score sure of his designation and continues to be unapologetic. Steer has regrettably borne for all his post-infancy life the curse of the illiterati. He did not learn to read and write, so the distinction in writing would be quite lost on him. For example, he says in his own words, "When my parents say I give too much trouble, my stepfather took me to an Obeah woman who see everything before you get the chance to tell her what happened. Eyewitness 7, that is my stepfather, beat up my mother, and I felt sadness for her, and I was even crying because she was bleeding on the ground. I was so frightened and confused I couldn't speak. I see what happened to my mother, but I was too small and said nothing. So 7 took me to this science woman, and she gave me a bath to quiet down my fearful and distressed spirit. And she saw him. She asked him, 'Why you abuse your wife?' So my stepfather started to tell her he did not do anything like that. It's me just start to behave bad and they can't control me and she need to help me settle down because some bad spirit take me over. And as soon as he gave her that answer, I did something I should not have done. I talk out loud that is not true and that my stepfather boxed my mother and she fell on the ground and she cried and her blood soaked into the dirt in the yard. And I feel sorry for her. I was afraid that she was dead for she didn't move for a little while. The woman got a whole lot of different bush and boiled them. And she bathed me with the water and put a spell on me that affected me for years after that. I can't even forgive Seven or the woman for what they did to me and made me suffer as a boy growing up to be a man. And now I can neither read nor write to this day. But now I am I understand why Seven hated me so much. For he was cruel to my mother and me, and I told the truth, and that must have embarrassed him. I remember another time when family and friends came together as a sort of self-help community to build a house for one of my uncles. The custom was to run a boat. That is, put on a big pot of dumpling to go with the food, and the salt meat cooked down in oil to eat with the cornmeal and flour dumpling. But as soon as you know, if you don't make the water boil before you put them in, from the froth, the cornmeal full up the pot and make up the dumpling, and them look soapy. So what I see the woman do is pick up a towel and she take her time and wipe down every dumpling so them look smooth like. Anyway, as soon as the men that come over to help start eating, I bawl out how Miss Annie take a towel and wipe the dumpling them, and them shouldn't eat them because what she did wiping over and over with the cloth looked nasty to me. Whoever tell me to pass remark about other people's business? Everybody stop eat bram and look at each other and go scrape out them plate and put it down. And it was so that the whole plan mash up because of what I say out loud, that I see the cook do. All my family hate me for that also. But I never knew better. But I always believed in my mother because she was the only person I know to love. And she wasn't a soft person. She was strong and thick and as tough as nails, especially when she was defending her politics. And from she was a girl, she would fight like a man if you troubled her. 2 men I know she allowed to abuse her, and she never resists like a warrior, like they used to say about her. The first was my father, Arrows, who plenty time denied I am his son, just to make Clara, that is my mother, feel bad. Also, about me, myself, Arrows, by saying that my mother and him had no relationship, so she could not accuse him of being my father. How she get his correct name is from a bicycle receipt, so he made sure I wouldn't even think of him for anything. But it's not easy to keep calling and thinking of a man as your father when he tells you and the world that he is not so and he did not have a relationship with your mother. 7, the stepfather who hated me and would beat me and ignore me when it came time for sharing anything. He would only care for the children he had with Clara, my mother, but showed no kindness or affection for me. I was the stranger in the yard, and he refused to send me to school so I could learn. These 2 men, who could have helped me, showed no interest in me, neither as natural son or hang-on stepson. But I also know from long time what I should not do if people even ask me. My position and my attitude as a poor simple man is not because I haven't met people that try to involve me in shady scams or drugs, but I try to be true to myself and what I believe in, and I know in my spirit the difference between good and bad. Like everybody else, people will find all sorts of ways to make themselves successful, but you don't have to go with them. If they help you by bringing you into their wrongdoing, you will never get rid of them if you achieve success. but I have been in lockup 3 times in my life. Not because I do anything unkind or mistreat anybody, but because I don't fit into their idea of living and they see me as a troublemaker. I may not have more than 1 pair of shoes and 1 pants and 2 shirts, and I may go about in my shorts and my slippers, but I'm always clean and my clothes are never dirty. Remember, I am the son of a washerwoman, and I live by certain standards and values. When I was younger, I would hope to become some sort of government system person, like a policeman or a pastor, which is the image some people put on me. But right now, I just need a better financial situation. For at my age, I can't hope for a career. I need to keep myself alive until my time comes, and meanwhile, find a source to help my bad situation.